Hi everyone! So in the last video, we talked about two different strategies to model fraction division. The first was to use a number line, and the second was to draw a picture. Now, just like with those two strategies, we can also model fraction division using fraction tiles. And again, we know that this works because division is all about making equal groups. So we can still ask that question, what am I splitting apart? And use the fraction tiles as our model to prove our answer. So let's look again at that example, 2 divided by 1/4. Now, I already know from the last video that 2 divided by 1/4 is going to be equal to 8. But let's prove it using the fraction tiles. So remember, we're starting by asking, what am I splitting apart? The dividend, or the amount we split apart, always comes first in a division problem. So that means I'll take out two one-whole fraction tiles to show that I'm splitting apart two full groups. Now, 1/4 in this case is my divisor, which means I'm going to be splitting that into groups of 1/4 sized tiles. So I'll line up 1/4 sized tiles all the way underneath both of those whole fraction bars until I fill it up exactly. If I counted the total number of 1/4 tiles I have, I would end up with 8 groups of 1/4, or 8 segments. So that can prove that 2 divided by 1/4 is equal to 8. Now, we didn't talk about this with the number line or the picture strategy, but you can divide fractions by whole numbers as well. Let's look at that with a fraction tile example. In this particular story problem, I see Kalia shares half a package of clay equally among herself and two friends. What fraction of the whole package of clay will each friend get? So let's start by rereading line by line to find what are we splitting apart. The first sentence says, Kalia shares half a package of clay equally among herself and two friends. Since she's sharing half of a package, I know that means I'm splitting apart 1/2. So I'm already starting by splitting apart something that's already less than one whole. Then I can figure out what fraction of the whole package she will get by using division. So I know that I'm splitting apart the 1/2 of a package. So I'll use a 1/2 fraction tile to model that. So now, since it's herself and two friends, I know that means Kalia is sharing this with 3 people. So I need to find what fraction tile lines up exactly 3 times underneath this 1/2 tile. Now you might recognize the relationship with the numbers, or you might do this just by playing around and guessing and checking, but we'll find that the 1/6 fraction tile lines up perfectly underneath this 1/2 fraction bar. That means each friend will get 1/6 of the package. Let's take a look at a couple examples using the actual tiles to model fraction division. Okay, so I want to look at a couple different examples, both with a whole number dividend and a fraction dividend. So let's start by dividing 2 divided by 1/5. Well, that whole number of 2 out front is my dividend. That's the amount I'm splitting apart. So I'm going to start by putting down 2 full fraction bars. And because of the size of my space, I'm going to put them top and bottom instead of side to side. Next, what I'm doing is I'm going to be dividing them by 1/5. So that means I need to split them up into groups of 1/5. So I'll line up my 1/5 green fraction tiles underneath each fraction bar to find exactly how many groups there are in those 2 whole fraction bars. And you might be starting to recognize some patterns that occur because as I line up these 1/5 tiles, I can tell that 2 divided by 1/5 is equal to 10. So I know that 2 divided by 1/5 will give me 10 separate groups of those green 1/5 tiles. So that's one way of taking a look at dividing a whole number by a fraction. Let's take a look at another example where we have a fraction dividend. So in this example, I have 1/6 divided by 2. So that means I need to start with a 1/6 fraction tile. I need to figure out if I were to line up two fraction tiles exactly underneath here, what size pieces would make sense? Which means I'm going to need to try pieces that are smaller than 1/6. You might see a relationship already, but if not, you can try playing around with the tiles. For example, if I line up 1/8, I know that that's going to be much too big to fit two of those pieces underneath. So I could try different fraction tiles until I find the one that I need. In this case, 1/6 divided by 2 is going to give me 1/12 because the pink 1/12 tile is the tile that lines up perfectly underneath the 1/6 two times. Let's take a look at two more quick examples. Next, I have another fraction dividend. I have 1/2 divided by 4. So I'm going to start with my 1/2 fraction tile, and I need to find pieces that will line up exactly 4 times underneath it. Can you make a prediction of what size piece that might be? Hopefully, maybe you're starting to see that pattern and you predicted that the 1/8 fraction tile would line up exactly 4 times underneath 1/2. So that can tell me that 1/2 divided by 4 is equal to 1/8 because each of these 4 groups is represented by a size that's as big as the 1/8 tile. Finally, if I have 2 divided by 1/12, again, I'll take those two 1-whole groups. Oops, let you see the question this time. And I am going to split them into groups of 1/12. Now, you might have recognized or can make a prediction about what your amount is going to be. If each whole is made up of 12 pieces, then 2 of those whole groups are going to be made up of 24 pieces. So as I line up my 1/12 fraction tiles, I can show that each whole is split into 12 groups, which means that 2 wholes would be split into 24 groups. Now I'm going to go finish lining up this last row of 1/12 pieces. Then I'll color it in so we can add it to your guided notes page. But the big idea here is that you can use fraction tiles to model dividing a whole number by a fraction or dividing a fraction by a whole number. And the same big ideas are what you start with, which is what am I splitting apart and how many groups do I have, or how big are each of my equal-sized groups. So use this strategy whenever you've got the fraction tiles available, and you can use that to do a model. Thanks for watching, everyone.